common man should believe in one religion, right? So if the common society, the people we see here today, if Muslims believe in Islam, the society will be better, right? Because it believes in God, not LGBTQ. I am not the common man, I'm an exceptional person. And because I'm an exceptional person, I can understand my brain and I can only believe things that will give me power.
I'm asking you I'm asking you about a concept.
Go on.
Does believing in something make it true or false?
In your head, yes.
I'm not talking about your head.
But you're asking me objectivity, I'm asking you
Does
subjectivity.
Mount Everest exist?
I'd assume so.
Right. If I believe that it doesn't exist,
I don't care.
does it not exist or is it still standing there?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if you believed it or
It's
not.
not about whether you care or not.
I understand exactly what you've been saying the whole time. And what you're saying is it doesn't matter what subjective realities we live in, there is objective truth, okay? That's what you're saying. It's not an effect I've just said. That's what you're trying to get out of me to say, okay?
I think that initially I would say it's more because of my parents and
Your parents?
yeah, originally, initially.
So you were always Muslim?
Yeah. I mean, there's 250 million Muslims in India, right? Right. So there's around 650 million, 700 million Hindus, around 250 million Muslims, and obviously Sikhs make up probably, I would imagine, a good 100, 150 million or something like that. I might have got that wrong, but there's certainly many of them, especially in Punjab. And of course, you've got.
Were you indoctrinated from a young age to believe Islam?
No, I wouldn't say indoctrinated, actually. What I would say is just like many kids, there wasn't a.
Because before, a lot of people, what they did was they'd get indoctrinated in a certain thinking, say Christianity, doesn't have to be Islam, it's Sikhism, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And then they go through like a self-discovery thing.
Right.
And then they like go back or they change.
Exactly.
Right? Did you have something like that or no?
I would say so.
Or did you always just believe it?
No.
Because that's what you.
I would say I had a strong belief from a young age, but when I got to my teenage years, I wanted to ensure that my beliefs were justifiable with evidence. Because Islam is not necessarily an easy religion. You have to pray 5 times a day, you have to fast, you have to give money to the poor.
And you should.
Yeah, but it's compulsory in Islam, it's not a choice.
So I'm saying like you should in the society.
Of course you
sense.
should. Well, you should. You can say you should, but in reality, unless there's God in the picture,
Yes.
that should can become very...
One God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when I got to my teens, when I got to my early teens, mid-teens, I thought to myself that for me to truly believe in Islam, I would have to find evidence that would convince me that this was in fact the truth. So when I did that, when I went through that exercise, one of the wonderful things I think about Islam is that the more evidence you uncover, the more investigation that you do, the stronger that your belief actually becomes.
Amazing. And you said nothing I disagree with.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, of course. You said nothing I disagree with, my friend. And I'll tell you how I view the world, so then you can convince me otherwise. Okay?
So what do you believe, though, in terms of your beliefs? Tell me a little bit about yourself as to where you've come from as a family and how that belief system has transformed or morphed into what it is today.
Well, I was born in a Sikh family. I have basic morality from that sense, right? And I was very lucky that I was born into a family that follows a religion, like a God, which is very lucky of me. And then I went through a step of I didn't really want to believe it anymore, in the sense that, oh, is this really right, is this really wrong? And then I went through more self-discovery. I'm like, oh, I became a lot more aware in the sense that I can choose whatever I want to believe. If I can choose whatever I want to believe, I will use everything, including the idea of God, to become more competitive in the world we live in today. So my whole mindset is in the sense to try and be as competitive as I can in this world. So that means that I believe in the idea of God for the sake that when I feel lowest, when I feel like I can't control myself or something's going to happen, like I don't trust myself, I have God to rely on in my head. But that doesn't mean I subscribe to a certain practice or whatever.
Right. So when you sort of said that you've, in that sense, you've moved away from traditional Sikhism, right?
Yeah.
What was your process to understand whether you should adhere or shouldn't adhere to this particular religion.
It's not competitive. In the world we live in today,
Right.
in the system we live in today, it's very important to be as competitive as possible.
Right.
And if you're not competitive in the society, you're going to fail, unfortunately. And since we live in that society, that's the parameter we were born in, we don't have any control of it. Okay, then my mindset should match that and I should be as competitive as possible.
So would you say that being competitive in life is superior to adhering to a particular code of conduct and religion, which is inspired by, created by, revealed by God Almighty?
So what I believe is that the common man should believe religion.
Sorry?
The common man should believe in one religion, right? So if the common society, the people we see here today, if most of them believe in Islam, the society will be better, right? Because it believes in God, not LGBTQ. But I am not the common man, I'm an exceptional person. And because I'm an exceptional person, I can understand my brain and I can only believe things that will give me power. Now, I know that if I prayed 5 times a day like you do in Islam, it takes time away from my business. I run businesses, I do X, Y, Z. And I do not want to waste that time when I could just use that time more efficiently and be more competitive in the world we live in today.
So that's when I asked you the question, you see. My question was very specific, which was that you seem to have prioritized the world and success within it,
Yes.
as opposed to what I would say is true success,
Okay.
which is to be an obedient slave to the creator of the heavens and the earth. Now, I'm just asking you as to why you have perceived the worldly gains to be superior to that connection with the creator of the heavens and the earth. So that's my question to you.
Great question, my friend. I'm enjoying this discussion. Well, the answer for the question is that I care so much about my family, my friends, and X, Y, Z, that I will do anything if it means putting food on the table for them, right? And in Islam, you can't do interest. If I have to get a loan to put food on my table for my mum, I would take that moral blight. I don't mind doing that. But I can't say and sit with God, like truly, and say, I'm Islamic because I will take interest. That's not what Islam does. And if everyone took interest and said they were Islamic, then that wouldn't matter. Like, then there's no reason that Muhammad should have wrote that. So I can't prescribe to it because I would do anything in a competitive landscape to help my family, help my mum, and become successful in this life.
So let me understand what you're saying.
Yes.
What you've just said to me is that the success of your abilities in terms of wealth and distributing that wealth to your family and giving them security,
Yes.
supersedes the concept of what God has asked you to do or has told you to refrain from. So would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, I prioritize my family. I'm competitive in that sense.
So do you see the value of what you're doing as more valuable or less valuable when it comes to your eternal life, eternal existence in the hereafter, than being an obedient slave of the Creator?
So I don't actually believe in the eternal life or whatever. I believe that God could strike me down right now. I'll be happy with it because I pray to God. Sorry. But I do not believe that when we go, we do whatever. I think people should believe in heaven and hell because it makes you morally better, right? If you do this way, you go to heaven, you go to hell. That's fine. But I'm an exceptional person. I understand that. I'm not going to adhere to that like masturbation. I'm content enough in my life that if God strikes me down, that's God's wish. But I'm not going to think about it afterwards.
So basically what you're saying is that you don't believe that there are any consequences after you die. So this life is all you have, and therefore you prioritize this life.
Yes.
Would that be right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you a question then. I just wanted to say a big thank you, Jazakallah Khair, to all of our supporters on Patreon, and also all of you who have subscribed to the channel and are making comments and likes. All of this helps to support the dawah. And mashallah, the money generally goes towards transcripts, translations, and also the shorts that we're doing regularly, alhamdulillah. And all of that is having an impact on spreading the dawah. So Jazakallah Khair, inshallah, keep your donations coming and help the dawah to grow. Jazakallah Khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. if you come to the realization that in fact there is an afterlife,
how would I find out? Sorry,
how is a different aspect
Yes.
of the question,
Yes.
and a different subject in some ways,
Yes.
or maybe a continuation of the discussion. But initially, I would say to you, if you come to the realization through, however, whatever way you do, right, evidence, whatever it might be, right, how would that then alter your perspective when it comes to the worldly life being superior to the obedience of the creator of the heavens and the earth?
Sorry. Yeah. If in this hypothetical I somehow adopted a set of beliefs that there's going to be a heaven and hell, right? Then I would have basically accepted, in that sense, like God, because I wouldn't be so competitive in this stance, but I would never accept that. And the reason why I wouldn't is because I would only have a competitive edge in this world. That's what I believe is right now, and that's what I'd use to my advantage.
But what you've now said to me, and please correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong, is that even if you were to come to the realization that there is an eternal afterlife,
Yeah.
you would still choose this world above the afterlife.
No, but I thing is, I don't believe beliefs can be like just shown to you, right? You have to work on it. You have to put things in your head. We're indoctrinated to a degree, right? So I would never make myself believe that. Just as the same way, I use this example a lot. I'll never believe in depression. I don't think depression exists. I could be as sad as anyone here, but I will never listen to medical research on depression X, Y, Z, because that takes power away from me. If I believed in the heaven and hell concept, I would be less powerful here, because I will think that this is only temporary and this shouldn't be competitive, which will make my mum suffer more and which will hurt me in such a way on this planet, which I don't want to do.
You see, I think what you're doing is you're conflating some things here. So what you're conflating is, you're conflating basically the fact that if the afterlife existed, that you would still somehow pretend that it doesn't exist in order to simply prioritize this world.
Yes.
And what I'm saying to you is that you've also said that it's just a belief that can't be established, basically. It can't be proven in terms of the afterlife, right?
Well, I wouldn't believe any proof. Just like I don't believe proof in depression, because it's going to take me away from my goal in my head.
Yeah.
Your goal is to be a servant of God, right? My goal is to be as competitive as possible on this planet.
So when you come to the conclusion of being competitive on this planet,
Yes.
is your primary and most important
Yes.
goal,
Yes.
how have you arrived at that situation or position?
Because we live in a competitive world, that in the West, like there's more poor people, inflation's going up, the system's collapsing. The only way that I think I have a chance of actually making it, like helping my mom and making sure we're taking care of for the long term, isn't from praying 5 times a day. It's actually from having a sense that, okay, I need to do anything and everything as competitive as possible so that I can take care of my family.
My point to you is, how have you arrived at that position?
By looking at the world.
Based upon evidence, I'm
By
saying.
looking at the way the world is.
So because you see the world is competitive,
Yes.
your analysis of that is, or your conclusion of that is
I need to be competitive.
that I need to be competitive in the world,
Yes.
even if that means sacrificing my afterlife.
But I don't believe in that.
I understand. But my question to you was, if you were to come to the realization on balance of probability that it is highly likely that this claim being made in this book is actually true, that there is an afterlife, how would that change your decisions or your opinions about this world being the only goal?
It will change everything. But let me tell you, it's the same as depression. If you told me, like if we had a conversation about depression instead, you said depression's real, you're depressed, you have to sit at home and do nothing, you think I'm going to listen to you? I wouldn't listen to a word you said because you're making me less competitive in this world. It's the same for this heaven and
But
hell
I might
thing.
be wrong about depression.
And you might be wrong about this.
No, I might be wrong about depression, right? But if I provide enough evidence to you that convinces you that there is a state of mind where people can become depressed, would you still not accept it?
If me and you were the same level of depressed, I'd be better if you believe in depression.
That's a different look. The reality of something existing and how you react to it are separate things.
If you label it, you give it power.
You misunderstand what I've just said to you. You denying depression or accepting it doesn't change the reality of whether it does or does not exist.
But it gives it more power.
That's a different thing altogether.
But it is because it has more effect on you.
How you use it to affect you is a separate issue. Accepting the reality of it based upon the evidence that you find is a separate issue. Do you understand my point?
I would never. You can have as much evidence as you can, my friend. You'll never convince me that I'm depressed because will not sit at home and do nothing.
So then, what you're saying to me is that you don't go with wherever the strongest evidence leads you, but you go with whatever to you feels right.
Competitive.
Whatever makes you feel that you're being more competitive.
Feel that makes me feel more competitive in the world we live in my subjective reality.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that you're prepared to switch off from reality, because if depression actually exists, and there is a clinical condition of depression, which can be, I think, manifestly proven through scans of the brain, through your neurology, through your condition of how you are, and what have you, right? You're saying that even if there is analytical or empirical evidence to support something, you would rather deny that it even exists in order to make you more competitive.
So imagine me and you, we both have families, we both run businesses, right? We both work 18 hours a day. We both get diagnosed with depression. You, if you believe in it, if you give it power, will have an excuse to work less than 18 hours. I will still work 18 hours because I'm like, I'm depressed. You're lying.
I think you're still missing the...
No, but that's my mindset.
No, but look, how you react to something doesn't affect whether that thing exists or doesn't exist.
It gives it power though.
Whether it gives it power in your mind, whether it gives you or you allow it to give it power,
by acknowledging its existence,
is a reaction to it.
Yes.
But it doesn't change whether it exists or it doesn't exist.
But you acknowledging it exists gives it power.
So what you're now saying to me is that even if you, it's better. You're saying it's better to not acknowledge things that exist.
That take power away from you.
If you feel it takes power away from you.
Yes.
So you're living a life of delusion then?
Everyone is.
Yeah. So
because there's no objective reality. It's all subjective.
Okay, but you're saying that there's no objective reality. According to who?
We all live in our own subjective realities.
Yeah, we all live to our own subjective realities. But are you saying that there is no such thing as objective reality?
I think for society to function, we need to have objective moral truths, right?
Yeah.
So if this was a Islamic society and I couldn't do anything without praying 5 times a day, I'd follow that morality because that's how you be the most competitive, right? If that's the only way to go through life, that, if you're the common man, you have to pray 5 times a day, or you won't get a job, or you won't take care of your family, you have to do X, Y, Z, then I'll do that. However, we don't live in that objective reality. We live in a reality where everyone does what they want, right? Everyone can choose whatever they want. We've got a democratic freedom, and because of that, I get to choose my own beliefs. And I will only choose beliefs that will make me stronger. And even that's subjective and delusional, it makes me more competitive in the world, and the more successful people in the world are delusional people.
So let me ask you a question then. Because you keep using this word success.
Yes.
Yeah? Your yardstick to measure success is what exactly?
So my yardstick is the amount of freedom I have to do exactly what I want and not trying to be a part of this system that just wants me for money.
So, and would that be attaining a level of financial security,
you need
success?
You need to. Unfortunately, you can't be free without money.
So you see, our definition of success is very different then.
Yes.
Yes? Because for you, this life is all there is.
Yes.
And there is nothing outside of this life.
Yes.
And so basically, your drive is solely to do with this world and this life alone.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question.
Please.
Right? I'm going to say to you, how have you arrived at this decision without investigating religion or investigating the concepts of why God exists, why there's a good reason to accept that concept?
Because that's what the common man believes. That's what it was made for. So the religion was made for the common man in society to be preserved.
And how you arrived at that conclusion?
Because society's preserved for the last 2,000 years, more or less. People have morals, you know. Like if we lived in a society that's going to be run by the LGBTQ, they want to.
How have you arrived at the conclusion that it's just man-made?
What do you mean?
Religion.
I don't really. Is it? Because that's how. That's what would preserve society. Some very, very smart people, smarter than me, decided that this is what we need to believe for order for society to be preserved. And that's why they push those beliefs on the common man. And the most competitive people don't believe it.
Okay, so you actually, I disagree with you there, actually. I think the vast majority of people still are theists, not atheists.
Yes,
and even those who are not necessarily active in religion, they still believe in some sort of higher power, or they believe in a God. I think this phenomena of atheism is more within Western liberal circles than it is for the vast majority of the world. But in any case, the point that I'm trying to make to you now is that you've made this decision. You said to me, it's odd really in some ways, because I see a bit of a contradiction here.
Yes, please.
Because you said that you do believe in a God.
The idea of God.
No, so you believe in an idea of God, but you don't believe in God.
Well, the idea of it.
Yeah, but you don't believe in God.
Well, I believe that if me and you got shipwrecked, we both got, our ship went over, we both swam to two different islands. The island I swam to, they said that do not let anyone who comes ship aboard, kill them immediately and don't let them talk to you. You go to a society and they believe in God, and God just said, do not, anybody who comes to our island shipwrecked, we need to help them and make sure we take care of them. God just saved your life. And a society that has that morally is going to prosper.
Is that a false belief? I think they believe in God.
Is it false to believe in God?
Is their belief of not killing you based upon a morality they've learnt from God? Is their concept and belief of God a false view?
It saved your life.
It's irrelevant. Again, you keep talking about the reaction.
Yeah.
You don't talk about the cause.
What's the cause?
I'm talking about the cause
of God.
And you want to talk about the reaction. I'm saying that their belief in God existing, whether it saves your life or takes your life, because there might be another tribe that will say God said kill everybody that comes on this island.
And there was, yeah.
Right? Right. So the reaction is not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about their concept of their belief of God. Is that true or false?
For them it's true. If they believe it's true.
I'm asking you.
For me, hey, if I got shipwrecked...
You're talking about the reaction.
You just said about me.
No, I said your belief, your acceptance of their belief being valid in terms of its foundation, i.e. that God exists. Would you think that that was a false belief or a true belief? No,
if I would prescribe to a thinking where anybody who's shipwrecked and is about to die, I take them in as well. I subscribe to that belief in God.
No.
But you said that's what I think.
You're saying that you believe in their
concept of God. Yeah, I'll believe in
concept of God.
I'll believe that.
I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Do you believe God exists?
Do I believe the idea does?
You're not answering the question.
But that's because I don't believe. I believe in the idea of God. That's why.
Do you? The idea is a concept.
Yes.
It's not the reality.
Yes.
I'm asking you about the reality.
But no, the idea is a reality. It's all ideas.
But it doesn't mean God exists, though, does it?
Does democracy exist?
If it's just an idea, it doesn't necessarily necessitate. You can have an idea that unicorns exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they actually exist, does it?
Does democracy exist?
You're switching the argument.
No, that is the idea.
No, I asked you.
Yeah.
People might say that unicorns exist.
Yeah.
Does the fact that lots of people believing that make unicorns true?
Hey, I wouldn't believe it. But I live my own subjective reality.
Does it make the belief true?
I don't have objectivity on it. I would look, if I see a unicorn in real life, I see it, I'll be like, okay, unicorns exist. If I don't see it, I wouldn't believe it.
You're not answering my question with all due respect.
No, because you're asking for an objective answer. No. I'm saying it's a subjective thing.
No, it's not objective at all.
Okay.
I'm asking you I'm asking you about a concept.
Go on.
Does believing in something make it true or false?
In your head, yes.
I'm not talking about your head.
But you're asking for objectivity, I'm asking for subjectivity.
Does Mount Everest exist?
I'd assume so.
Right. If I believe that it doesn't exist,
I don't care.
Does it not exist, or is it still standing there?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if you believed it or not.
It's not about whether you care or not.
Why not?
Because I'm asking you about the reality of something existing. Not whether you care about it or not.
I believe it exists.
Does that bottle exist?
Yeah, I'm drinking it.
Yes. If I believe that the bottle doesn't exist, does it cease to exist?
I'll keep drinking it.
Does it cease to exist?
In my reality, no.
Does the concept that does the actual bottle exist or not exist, depending upon my belief of it?
Not in my reality.
I'm asking you about a concept, a definition.
You're asking me for an objectivity answer, right?
No, I'm asking you a common sense question, actually.
Yeah, I know.
It's a common sense question.
I know.
The common sense question is, does believing in something make it exist as a matter of fact?
Yes, exactly. Depression doesn't exist in my head. You believing depression exists makes it real. Do you see? You believe in depression. Do you understand what I'm saying? You believe in depression is making it real. I don't believe in it. You'll get depressed. I'll work harder for you. I'll be more competitive than you.
Am I talking about depression?
No, but that's what you're asking. That's the concept you're asking.
What was the question I asked you?
You asked about a concept, about if it makes it real.
Yeah. I said, not real as in its effects. You keep talking about the effects, about how it will change me, how it will alter me. I'm not talking about the effects. I'm talking about whether the thing exists or doesn't exist.
Depression or
anything in life. Does the reality of something existing change because I believe in it or I don't believe in it?
The reality of something
existing.
You're asking for objectivity. You do know that, right?
No, I'm asking you a very common sense question.
Is that not objectivity, though?
No, it's not at all.
So everyone believing something exists is not objectivity.
It is actually a deductive argument with premises, I believe, that are valid, and it leads to a valid conclusion.
And what? So
which is that the belief of something or the accepting of something does not change the reality of whether the thing exists or not in the first place.
Okay.
If I think nothing exists, it doesn't mean nothing exists. Everything still exists. You understand my point?
You wouldn't be able to function in society if you had a stupid mindset.
You're talking about a reaction again now, about the thing that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the reaction.
I'm talking about examples of how to go through life to be the most competitive person.
That's a reaction to it.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the reaction.
Why?
I'm talking about the thing itself. So I would say, let me help you with this.
Please.
I would say my belief of Mount Everest existing or not existing does not change the reality of whether it actually exists or doesn't exist. Do you understand my point now?
I understand exactly what you've been saying the whole time. And what you're saying is it doesn't matter what subjective realities we live in, there is objective truth, okay? That's what you're saying. It's not an effect I've just said. That's what you're trying to get out of me to say, okay? I understand that. I don't prescribe to that.
Okay, all right, let's deal with that.
I don't prescribe to that.
Does Mount Everest objectively exist or objectively not exist?
I don't subscribe to objective measurements.
Listen to what I just said.
Yeah.
Does Mount Everest exist objectively or not exist objectively?
But I don't subscribe to those measurements.
Whether you subscribe to it or don't subscribe to it is irrelevant.
So why would I answer something I don't know about?
Because I think what you're doing, unfortunately, is that there are only two possible answers. Something either exists or it doesn't exist. You're wanting to pick neither.
No, in my reality, if I went to Mount Everest right now, I'll say it exists, of course, but I haven't seen it. You and I, we can say so much stuff, right? We could go and watch a YouTube video right now on ChatGPT and of the Super Bowl, I think it was. This woman, she missed a note, right? She missed a note, and on the video on the Super Bowl ad, on every single YouTube video of the ad, she didn't miss the note. Did she miss the note though? You wouldn't know that if you looked at the YouTube video.
I want to go back to Mount Everest because that's not an example that I was talking about. I'm going to give you two options.
Yes, please.
For you to be logically coherent, you either have to give me a third option.
Yeah, I have.
A third option.
I live in my own subjective reality.
Which could be delusional.
Everyone's delusional though.
No, well, I'm not. I don't think I'm delusional.
Well, that's the problem. You're deluded in a certain way. You're deluded to follow Islam in a certain way, just like I'm deluded to be competitive in a certain way.
How do you know whether I'm deluded or I've arrived at a logical conclusion based upon the evidences that I have investigated?
In your own emotional and subjective experiences, probably.
How do you know that?
Because we are emotional beings, right? Yes. If you and I, if we go into 10 car accidents, if I go by if all 10 car accidents were by 10 women, I would still sit there and be like, women can't drive. But the statistics and the research shows that men are worse.
But you made a judgment about me.
Yeah, no.
You said I've arrived at my conclusion
Yes.
about Islam
Yes.
because of emotional decisions.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So-
everyone has.
So,
Every
so I'm going to ask you now: do you only make decisions emotionally or intellectually?
Define intellectually.
Do I have to define that for you?
Because I know, because you're talking about rational objectivity. Is that intellectual for you? Because I don't think that
I'm
is.
saying balance of probability.
Balance of probability.
Doesn't have to be objective.
So if you go into a car crash with 10...
Forget the car crash.
No, why? That's a good example,
No,
though.
deal with what I asked you.
Can you ask it again, then?
Do you only deal with things, assess things emotionally, or do you assess them intellectually, logically as well?
I try and be as logical as possible, yeah.
Okay, so you apply logic.
Yes.
Right. So when I asked you a logical question
Yes.
about the existence of something is not affected by whether one believes in it or doesn't believe in it, why are you not prepared to answer that question?
And I am prepared to do it because I gave you an example of what happens when you believe it, right?
You're talking about the reaction of believing it. I'm not talking about the reaction of it.
But you're coming from objectively.
I'm talking about the fact of whether it exists or doesn't exist.
Listen, right? Objectively, you want an answer saying if it exists or doesn't exist. That's what you want me to say. I don't prescribe to that reality. So all I can tell you is my truth.
Okay, so what other option do you have?
I'll tell you what. All right, let's use the example of depression. If me and you,
Look,
why? That's a very good
I'm
example.
talking about Mount Everest.
Depression's better, though.
I'm saying either Mount Everest exists or I'm saying it doesn't exist.
But
you have to now give me a logical, defeater to that argument. You can't just say, "Oh, that's based on emotion," or "That's based on belief."
I didn't say that.
Right. So what's the other defeater to that argument?
I'll tell you. If you're trying to be the most competitive person in the world,
You're talking about a reaction to the belief now.
I wouldn't prescribe to. No, it's how you frame your mind. If you can frame your mind in the right way, you can be the most competitive person.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
How you doing?
Good. Yeah, how are you? You're in a conversation here.
Thank you. Well, it's lovely to meet you.
Okay.
This is what we want to try to tell him. Science doesn't care what you believe. Okay.
Look, I'm asking you about the existence of something,
Science says there's three genders now.
and you're talking
Yeah.
about the reaction of believing it. So I'm giving you two logical premises.
Oh, you're making me choose between A and B, and the answer's not there.
I'm saying there is only A and B.
It's not.
If you're saying there's a C,
Yeah.
then you have to please. There's a camera. Sorry.
There's
behind you.
subjective reality. I've been saying this from the start, my friend.
So I'm saying to you, you give
Yeah.
me what C comes into this.
Okay, I've told you, bro. I live in a subjective reality where I will only believe the things that make me the most competitive. I do not care if Mount Everest exists or doesn't. I really don't. Like me,
But that's not
mentally.
the question he's asking.
That was
I
the
know.
example he
No.
gave.
No, it's not
That's
the
not the
question
question I
he's
asked.
That was the example you gave.
asking. So the question
No,
is,
you just said A, B, or C. I
No,
just get answered.
no,
I'm answering C on my
Relax,
subjective
it's
reality.
cool,
No,
it's
I'm trying to get you understand.
what I'm saying is that he's asking you a really specific question.
Yes, and I'm answering that.
So let's
There's no
break
answer.
that question down a little bit, if you don't
Please,
mind.
please.
So, is there a reality or there is no reality?
It's in our own subjective opinions.
So, is there a reality that's independent of you existing or not?
Independent of me existing.
Yeah.
What
So
do
if you
what do
didn't
mean by that?
exist, would there still be a reality?
Not for me.
Not talking about your existence. I'm saying that you don't exist.
Yeah.
Would the reality still exist?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. It's not going to make me competitive to masturbate
Would a bus
about this.
exist if you didn't exist?
No, but I wouldn't care. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not talking about your emotional reaction
reactions
to
to
whatever.
things.
We're trying to just set a baseline.
Yeah,
because
go on,
if you
go on,
think
go
that
on.
nothing's real and only what I imagine and I feel is good about.
In our realities, yes.
If your position is
Yes.
that whatever I feel like and imagine is my truth, this is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Then if you don't exist, then everything else is irrelevant. Nothing exists if you don't exist.
No, because you're coming at it from an objective lens,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm looking at it in subjective realities. My set of beliefs and systems that I have is through my own emotional experiences. I gave the example, right, of the car incident. Imagine,
Yeah, but that's
do you
the whole
understand?
point.
No,
No,
because
this is
you're
the
looking at
point.
objectivity. It's
No,
not going to happen
You-
in a
whether-
subjective situation.
Okay. If you think that only if you exist, so there are a group of people who say that whatever's in my stream of consciousness, that exists. So when I look around, whatever I can see and I can experience,
Yeah, I know the
that
people.
is real.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
Yeah.
may or may not exist. Is that your position?